Peace, family. Peace, 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 peace. I am Chef Shayola, and I am so happy to finally be in front of you, before you, in this capacity. I'll wait a few moments for people to join in. It's been some time since I've gone live, and I shared a little bit of this before. It has been quite a journey over these last, I would say, 9 months, really. I definitely felt a shift in my vibration when I planted my son's placenta in the earth. It was like an eruption of things taking place and happening. So I figured, you know what, share what you have been learning, and in that will be, some of my story. So we will get started in just a moment. I am no pro at this, but I don't want to really show the door, so I'll shift a little bit. So a little bit about me, because I don't think I'm going to come on camera each time I share the food for thought. So the idea is food for thought and food for your belly. Meaning some days I'll be sitting right here in this chair just sharing with you, and some days I'll be in the kitchen sharing recipes and things that I'm learning. As I shared in the past, I am an ancestrally trained chef, and here recently decided to go to school to get that certification, and I'm so glad that I did because I've learned so much. Now, while this degree certification, which are not really the same, but they are they're learning, right? It's a course of learning. It is based in raw foods, right? So a culmination of raw foods, cooked foods, everything in between, I hope to be able to share with you. So I'm going to try to keep this as tight as I can. The video that I have is long. I don't want to show the whole thing. I don't want any copyright concerns or issues, but I'll show what I can. I don't know how. I'll just go according to how I am feeling. Mm-hmm. So let's see. I am going to get started with, first and foremost, I read these two books. I read this one first. And this book was pretty amazing. I really, really enjoyed the information that was shared in this one because it really opened my eyes to things that I hadn't really considered, so to speak. So it is the Black America's Handbook for Survival Through the 21st Century by Dane A. America. Again, a really informative read. I'm definitely happy that I picked that one up. Now, another book that I read, which is kind of the book that I'll share a little bit of today, is and I do the air quotes, right? Because we know that Black is a misnomer. And I know people are like, oh, you just don't want to be called Black, or you just don't want to be called African, or, these terms that really are names that were given to us under, I don't know. I don't even know if I should call it false pretense or what have you, but it definitely, that's a whole nother live, but I'm just going to focus on this book for now. Black people being indigenous to the Americas, research material for the inquisitive. And I found that this really is what it is, research for the inquisitive by Kimberly R. Norton. And in this book, what she does is compile different journal entries from people within different time periods within history. And I think that that's so, it's important. It's dope, right? If you don't journal, you probably should, or somebody else will definitely be telling your story. So what I'll do first and foremost, right, because I don't want to inundate. I just want to go through a few things. I highlighted all through this book, y'all. But one of the first, well, before we even go into what she adds to this book, I want to go into, let's see if I can pull it up on the screen. And y'all, I am by no means a pro when it comes to these devices, but we are going to see how I do. And while I'm doing this, I want to just say shout out to people like Rod Hayes, Dane Calloway, Top Catz, Sosalina, YouTube or YT, Chief Warhorse, so many people who are really doing the work, going through all of the muddled history that we have been really force-fed. I'm grateful for their work. Okay, so this is going to show up as I'm going to show that one in a minute, but I just wanted to put on screen what I'm looking at, and hopefully y'all come to that later on today. I'll share a little bit of that later. All right. So basically what she does in the book from the beginning is just making sure that the terms are known, right? And the reason why I feel that this is important is much like the Bible, right? It has words in it that describe the people, but then we're given images that are very contrary to those images, but we go along to the images more so than we go along with the words. And I feel like that is the space that we're in. So some of the descriptions of the people that were encountered when some of the Europeans came to this landmaster: black swart, blacker than other tribes, brown yellow, brown red, browner color, brunette, chestnut color, cinnamon color, copper cast color, colored skin, copper complexion, coppery complexion, dark brown, bronze color, dark brown hue, dark color, dark complexion, all of the things, hazel complexion, orange, tawny complexion, pale yellow, reddish brown, swarthy, all of the things, right? So again, I think that this is important to recognize because, one of the things that I've learned is there is a distinct difference between indigenous people and native people. And the sooner we learn that, I think the better off we will be. And shout out to Dane Calloway, because he definitely drives home that point that we need to understand the difference between indigenous people and native people. Now, I don't know. Hopefully I could just do this real quick. Now, I want to go to this page here. So this is a letter from Giovanni Verrazano. And this caught my attention because I'm originally from New York and have driven across the Verrazano Bridge many, many times, right? So this particular letter was written on the 17th of January in 1524. And he's talking about when they set sail. He's giving greetings to the Majesty at that time. I'm going to see if I can get page 10 in here because for some reason these didn't... they did not load in order, unfortunately, but let me see. Okay, here's 10. So basically they're talking about how they encountered, violent hurricanes, trying to get from point A to point B. And the reason why I think that this is important is because when they tell us that we came from Africa and we sailed on these boats, it's like, we really want to think about that. Like, does it actually make sense, right? Can a sailboat make a 90-day pilgrimage from one place to another with people totally intact? Or, they'll say things like, some people were lost in the Middle Passage. And even that story, I won't go too deep into that particular story today, but it's important to realize that those ocean gyres are really a thing. So when we say that these journeys were made, we really need to think about whether or not they could actually be done, because here he's saying like it was really an act of God as to how they were able to make it from point A to point B. All right, let's see if I can. That's 13. Okay. So here he's talking about the complexion of the people. Now, he's one of the ones that use the word black, not much different from that of the Ethiopians. Their hair is black and thick and not very long. It's worn back upon the head in the form of a little tail. Now, today, we would classify the what we think are the indigenous people as the Mongolian people, that mix of people that may look Asian and black, if you will, or Mexican. But here he's clearly stating that the people here were black, like the Ethiopians. So we want to these are people's personal accounts. Again, I am a fan of journaling because no one can tell your story, how you can tell it. So it's important for us to realize or recognize, even through, I have some other things that I probably can show. It's important to recognize that he's not saying that these people looked Mongolian or mixed with a thing. He's clearly stating that, the people that he encountered was, again, air quotes, black. I found this part here to be pretty interesting as well, because he states here one of the two kings came with his queen and many attendants to see us for his amusement. So people will say, well, the people here prior to 1492 were living in tikis, and, they called them savages all throughout this book. Or people will say, well, they weren't using the term king and queen back then. Well, clearly somebody was, right? And for him to recognize the fact that it was queens and kings who would come and see them, I think is also very important for us to recognize. Now, I'm not sure if hopefully I can come up on the one where it talks about the land and how luscious and beautiful it was, tropical. In this book, she talks also about how luscious and tropical the land was, but with all of the war and the dis-ease, it changed the environment. It also talks about how much gold and things were found here. See, it says the country as pleasant as possible to conceive, adapted to cultivation of every kind, whether of corn, wine, or oil. There are open plains 25 to 30 leagues in extent, entirely free from trees and hindrances, and so great fertility. Right? There were oak, cypresses, plums, filberts, apples, stags, deer. There were things that were here. And I do get a bit annoyed when I hear people say, well, we have to go back to Africa to get get our things. Just like, no, y'all, our things were right here. We didn't want for anything. We didn't need anything from anyone on the other side of the water. And I think it's important for us to really realize that. They used emery and jasper. Again, these slides are not in order, but hopefully you get the drift. I am low-key still looking for the slide that talks about the amount of gold. They even said that that's one of the reasons why prior to Columbus, the character that we know as Mansa Musa, why he came over, basically looking for gold. All right. So y'all, again, this is tonight. Hopefully y'all come back to the channel and see us, but that is not the... that's not the reason for that. for this particular live. And I do hope that you were able to see all of that, because again, I am no expert when it comes to these things, but I'm learning and I'm going to keep on pushing. So giving context to the, and that's one person's account. Okay. There are many people in here. The 1524 is the earliest account. And I felt that it was most important because he gives really, really great detail on the people that he met here. So before I continue on, okay, I am going to show, again, bits and pieces of a video by Dane Calloway. And I like a lot of the videos that he has shared with us. And one of the reasons why I really am a fan of his work is because he can prove it, which is very different from just talking just to be talking or regurgitating information because, you read a book. The thing about reading and researching is cross-referencing, and he always challenges people. If you're not digging what I'm saying, research it and prove me wrong. Prove that what I'm saying is incorrect, and then we can go from there. But if you find that when you're researching, oh, that might be right, then it would behoove you to, be truthful enough to say, you know what, I didn't agree with that brother in the beginning or whatever the case may be, but I was able to do my own research. I mean, he's really encouraged me to go deeper with my own family, and thank God that one of my grandmothers is still here. She just turned 90, and to be able to have these conversations with her as it relates to our genealogy really, really is a gift. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to play some of this video. I may stop it to give commentary, but for the most part, I just want you to be able to, again, this is not to sway anybody or, this is my story, learning from different genres of things and to include my own bloodline. Okay. This is not just other people's stuff. This is me doing micro and macro research to just uncover some of the truths that have been muddled. All right, so I hope that the sound is good. This is a little different than Zoom, but I think we are good to go. And I can't see the comments, so hopefully there is no issue with hearing this. I'll turn it up just a little. All right, y'all. So let's journey. Let's see the untold truth about the first Americans. Were not Native Americans. Again, Native and organic, if you will, or Indigenous are two totally different people.
I don't know, a lot of these black guys today, these gangster type guys, they all got names like that they make up for themselves.
He means like the rappers. The rappers, they all got names like that. Snoop Doggy Dogg, Ice Cube, Q-Tip, Method Man.
But it makes me think about Indians. They got names like Red Cloud, Crazy Horse, Running Bear, Black Elk.
Yeah, Indians, niggas, same thing.
Who are you? You don't know. Don't tell me Negro, that's nothing. What were you before the white man named you a Negro? And where were you? And what did you have? What was yours? What language did you speak then? What was your name? And why don't you now know what your name was then? Where did it go? Where did you lose it? Who took it? What tongue did you speak? How did the man take your tongue? Where is your history? How did the man wipe out your history?
So if they stole them from Africa, then they would have to take them back to Africa. Like there was no need because Black people were from everywhere, all this landmass, all these different countries. Black people were the indigenous people right here in America.
And I just want to stop there very quickly, right? You heard, and we know this, we say Black and brown people are indigenous to the planet, which is very much the truth. But ask yourself, why are the Black people in America the only people that are identified by two continents? So in other words, people, let's say in Cambodia, don't have to say that they're African Cambodian, or people in, I don't know, just other parts of the world, they don't have to say that they're African first and then wherever it is that they live. But we seem to be the ones that have to put that misnomer in front of American to classify who we are.
I meet somebody and he piss in my face. That's not civilized.
Right.
And one that attack me for no reason is not civilized.
But you know what? People attack people for no reason in the name of civilization.
That's true too, but I'm talking about that's from a big perspective. That means I'm coming to conquer I'm coming to conquer your country.
And that part,
I'm talking about I'm coming to be your friend. I'm coming to civilize you to brotherhood.
But you know what,
family?
Look what happened with, you think about indigenous people. The story, they've been befriended and then
we're the indigenous people.
You know what?
That's right.
It's us here.
Let's just change the name as much as possible to throw you all off so you really don't know what's going on. Let's keep switching the identity to hide the people. Why don't we just keep renaming you? Are you Negro? Oh, no, you're not Negro. No, you're colored. No, you're not colored. You're African American. And this is what they name you. Because I know a white guy who grew up in South Africa, and he now lives in America. He is an African American, and more African American than most. Do you see how African American is a misnomer?
Do you see the emotion? Like, even as he appears to be a European, he's even flabbergasted. Like, y'all, wake up. Stop allowing other people to name you and then try to create stories to fit that narrative. It just doesn't fit. But I feel his passion in trying to because I find myself getting in this mode where it's just like, oh my God, if we just think for a minute, just think.
It's a misnomer. Don't check that box. It's a title given to blacks by democratic slavers.
And even black people back in the day calling each other black was a sign for a fight.
When I was growing up, to call a person of color, like myself or others, black, was considered derogatory. That's just a fact. You call somebody black, those were fighting words.
Our forefathers weren't the Pilgrims. We didn't land on Plymouth Rock. The rock was landed on us.
Here's one thing you need to do before
Un momento.
anything online.
I probably should have done this in a different account.
Amazon.
But it's okay. I know better for next time.
Over a period of time, our people can recall being classified and reclassified by the federal government as particular titles or labels inside of their census taking process every 10 years. And with that comes political.
My apologies. I forgot to give a shout out to Mrs. Calloway, Tanisha Calloway. She definitely does her thing as well.
Judgment, where our people are referred to by whatever name is chosen by the government through its laws, policies, and even its media. And over the course of this government's lifespan, the indigenous Niji were referred to by the government as Indian, Wild Indian, Urban Indian, Negro Indian, and then Negro, Colored, Afro-Indian, Ameri-Indian, Afro-American, American Indian, and then Black, and now African American or Black American. And here's the problem with that. Ever since we can recall records being recorded during the existence of this government, the Niji has always been referred to as whatever name the government chooses to refer to them as. So why are we the only race of people that continues to allow strangers to dictate what we should be called as a people? Why are we continuously allowing strangers to have the right to call us by names that we have historically never referred to ourselves as? See, this leaves the door wide open for multiple manipulative attacks of confusion. And what is also important to note here is that the term Native American was later used by the US Census to refer to a group of people that was originally called Indians by this government, allegedly, which means that there are now separate terms for a group of people that were once all referred to as Indians. Listen closely. According to the 1828 Webster's English Language Dictionary, the term Indian is defined as a general name of any native of the Indies, as in East Indian or West Indian. It is particularly applied to any native of the American continent. And in this same English language dictionary,
I'll pause here again. So my family is initially West Indian, being from the Caribbean, from Barbados. And I just learned within the last few weeks that the West Indies really refers to, in addition to Virginia, Georgia, and I believe Florida. They're in the Carolinas. So this part of the hemisphere is also known as the West Indies.
Of 1828, it defines the noun American as a native of America, originally applied to the Aboriginals or copper-colored races found here by the Europeans, but now applied to the descendants of Europeans born in America. This means that the copper-colored races, or the Aboriginal Nijis of Turtle Island, who are now being misclassified as Black, are the original inhabitants of America. But since small to large migrations of foreigners from other continents became a viral trend during the early 1800s, the identities of the Niji were replaced by incoming foreigners. And then
now, that's what's happening right now, where we have an influx of foreigners coming into our space. And if we don't wake up, 100 years from now, we won't exist. You know, if they're able to, someone said to me, well, if Black, and I'll keep doing that, air quotes, if Black people were already here, how did they just let people steal their land? And it's just like, well, one, we are still here and we're still fighting, right? Two, we didn't let them take it. Some of us were just so, we sided with the enemy. We did things that we probably should not have done. Someone like a Martin Luther King, doing a thing, and then you realize later on, oh my, I very well may have taken the wrong course on things. And I think that that's where many of us are right now. Like I may have taken, not everyone, because some people were able to get their history directly from their bloodline. Some of us allowed foreigners to tell us, who we are.
And everyone residing in America was later referred to as Native Americans. But how is it that all of a sudden, a group of people that were not genetically nor historically associated with the term Indian in its entirety are now somehow referred to as Native Americans as their classification of race by the US Census? During the early to mid 1800s, the offsprings of previous foreigners of European descent that migrated to North America prior to this great migrational period were threatened by the increase of even more foreigners being welcomed as citizens of America. These people were referred to as nativists, which carried a lifestyle of prejudice and bigotry, racial discrimination, radical political views, and biased religious beliefs. As more immigrants flocked to North American shores, migrating to cities and towns all across the East Coast, the nativist beliefs turned deadly by causing riots to arise in attempts to greet the newly incoming foreigners with resistance. For example, in July of 1844, it was said that a riot took place in the city of Philadelphia, where a large group of nativists burned down 2 Catholic churches and a Catholic school, killing 20 or so people in the process. Now, I'm sure many of you can recall some major events that occurred during the same time period, like the Indian Removal Act of 1830, for example, where President Andrew Jackson forced Indians living all throughout the East Coast of America to migrate to lands west of the Mississippi River, right? Keep that in mind. Now, in the latter part of the year 1849, a politician by the name of Charles B. Allen created the Order of the Star-Spangled Banner in the state of New York, which was a secret society formed in order to stand against the immigration of incoming foreigners of British, Irish, German, Japanese, and Chinese descent to the United States, and anybody else who practiced Catholicism as their religious choice. In order to join this society, the individual is required to be a Protestant of at least 21 years of age and must uncritically obey all orders and political policies established under the oath of this society. Nativists of this secret society would sometimes wear faux Indian outfits and refer to their leaders as chiefs or sachems, marking the original inhabitants of this land.
Y'all, straight stolen identity. Like, it really is a slap in the face. Like, they just stole our identity. Just stole it and told us that we were from someplace else, and we need to go back to that place to reconnect. And again, I'm not saying that there wasn't people from African descent that came or were forced here, right, in the late 1800s, early 1900s. I'm not saying that at all. What I am saying, though, is that the majority of what we know as Black people were already inhabiting these lands. And, you know, we really just have to do, I can't even stress enough how important it is to really strive to do your own genealogy. His story very well may not be your story or my story. So knowing your own story is, you know, we're entering a time where it's just not enough just to say. You have to know it. You can't just be calling yourself a thing and you have no, you can't prove it. When people say, well, I just know. I mean, okay, but if you have children and grandchildren, wouldn't you want them to be able to carry on the legacy and truth rather than, again, 100 years from now, them not knowing who they are at all, because they may be taught one thing at home, but when we send them out to the enemy schools to be taught, they are being taught that they are somebody different, right? And that's happened with me, happened with my mother. My mother was actually born here. She was the second child of my grandmother that was born here. And the information that she got obviously was very different from the information that my grandmother got. But I never heard my grandmother or my great grandfather say, you know, our ancestry started in Africa. Like, I've never, ever heard them say that. Some people say, well, you know, Africans and Americans were interchanging and doing business and trade, way before 1492. And I believe that to be so. If that's the case, then they weren't descendants of enslaved people. They were just people who traveled the world and decided to stay wherever it was that they traveled. That's very different. Being a prisoner of war is along those same lines of being someone who was, forced here. What we are witnessing right now, whether it is over in Gaza or just right here in these lands or in Haiti or in the Congo, it really is a genocide to bring new people in so that 100 years from now, again, and I keep going back to that 100 years because I really feel in my soul that if we don't wake up and get on task, we literally will be extinct. There will be no remnants of who we are. Even I went to Egypt in 2019, and to see all of the carvings on the wall, it's just like, wow, right? Because that withstood the test of time. But we even know that with Egypt, there was history years and years and years and years prior to that. So I just don't want us to get lost in the sauce more than we already are, following behind people who thought they knew. They thought that they were on the right course. And then we find out when it really is too late, like, oh man, that really was a burning building.
The flag stated the message, Native Americans, beware of foreign influence. 4 years later, during the year 1853, the nativists of the OSSB formed a political party called the Native American Party, with James W. Barker leading the charge. This political party's name was later changed a few times, in which I'll go over that in a second. But I wanted to point out that this was reportedly the very first time in America's history of the utilization of the term Native American. And by the religious beliefs, traditional practices, and radical political views of this organization, we can easily determine that the word Native carried a totally different meaning during this time period. The more commonly known explanation of the term Native is a person born in any place, whether country, city, or town. So if you are born in one place, no matter if your parents were originally born there or not, you are then called a native, no matter your historic genetic origins. However, the etymology of the word bears a totally different meaning than one may assume. It states that the term native is defined as a person born in bondage, one born a serf or villain. A serf is an agricultural laborer bound under the feudal system to work on his lord's estate. And a villain is a feudal tenant entirely subject to a lord or manor to whom he pays dues and serves in return for land. So, in other words, the general use of the word native referred to individuals who were literally employees, or rather peasants or laborers or servants or slaves to some form of foreign dictatorship, working to pay off their dues in hopes of being granted land in return. Doesn't this sound all too familiar?
Indeed.
And why would the term Native American be associated with pale-complexioned foreigners if American history exclusively labels the descendants of so-called Black people as the slaves of the slave trade era? And we know that this secret society was not established with the Aboriginal Niji's interests in mind, because our ancestors did not represent nor support the same beliefs, traditions, and or policies of this secret society, due to the simple fact that our ancestors were not Protestants nor Catholics during this same time period. So
I'll stop there for a moment as well. So, I know in these days, a lot of Black people are, for the moving forward, I will refer to Black people as Niji. And that, of course, is that is a name given to those who are organic to the land. Dang, I forgot the thought just that quick. It'll circle back. Oh, I was going to say that, it's like somebody coming into your house. You already have your traditions, how you do things, how you move. And some foreigner comes in and it's like, nah, we're going to do it this way. Your initial reaction will be, well, no, we have been doing it this way. And this is the way that it's going to be done. So there'll be some pushback, but just to lay down or bend over and say, oh yeah, we'll go with whatever y'all are talking about is weird. And I don't even see, the average person doing that.
Oh, could this be the reason why they decided to call their political party the Native American Party? By standing against their oppressors in hopes of reconciliation, political recognition, economic assistance, and land allotments? Land allotments? Land allotments? Land allotments? Land allotments?
What's your credit card debt balance? If it's $10,000 or more, here are 3 easy solutions you can start implementing today.
I'll be better the next time.
The Native American Party was the third major political party of the United States of America at that time, running against the Federalists in one corner and the Democratic Republican Party in the other. It was said that members of this party responded to questions from the press with, "I know nothing," which led to the organization earning the popularized nickname, the Know Nothings, by New York Tribune founder Horace Greeley. Smithsonian Magazine wrote, the Know Nothing Party included more than 100 elected congressmen, 8 governors, a controlling share of half a dozen state legislators from Massachusetts to California, and thousands of local politicians. Party members supported deportation of foreign beggars and criminals, a 21-year naturalization period for immigrants, mandatory Bible reading in schools, and the elimination of all Catholics from public office. They wanted to restore their vision of what America should look like, with temperance, Protestantism, self-reliance, with American nationality and work ethic enshrined as the nation's highest values. End quote.
I know nothing about QAnon.
I just told you.
I know very little. You told me, but what you tell me doesn't necessarily make it fact. I hate to say that. I know nothing about.
Whoa, what you told me doesn't necessarily make it fact. Now, I know a lot of people are not a fan.
I don't know who the Proud Boys are. I mean, you'll have to give me a definition because I really don't know who they are. I can only say they have to stand down, let law enforcement do their work. I don't know anything about him. Somebody told me yesterday, whoever he is, he did endorse me. Just so you understand, I don't know anything about David Duke, okay? I don't know anything about what you're even talking about with white supremacy or white supremacists. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know, did he endorse me or what's going on? Because, you know, I know nothing about David Duke. I know nothing about white supremacists.
I know nothing about Russia. I know about Russia, but I know nothing about the inner workings of Russia.
I know nothing about WikiLeaks.
WikiLeaks! I love WikiLeaks.
I know nothing about that. First time I've heard it. I know nothing about the project other than I didn't like, when I read about it, I didn't like it. I think it's a very sad thing for Mr. Banner. I could perhaps ask Tony about that because I don't know anything about it. I mean, you say we did that. I don't know anything about it.
In February of 2021, the Washington Post stated, quote, the Know Nothings formed a political movement that briefly became a major political party in the United States in the mid-1800s. The movement was marked by nativism and wild conspiracy theories, including that the Catholic Church was preparing a hostile takeover of the U.S. government. But was this all really just a conspiracy theory, or has it already been proven to be true when Pope Pius IX, born Giovanni Ferretti, who was the head of the Catholic Church from 1846 to 1878, which is the longest papal reign recorded to date, approved the unanimous request of American bishops that the Immaculate Conception be invoked as the patroness of the United States of America on February 7th, 1847? Leave your comments down below and tell me what you think. On the date of August 24th, 1855, in a letter to Joshua F. Speed, Abraham Lincoln shared his opinion of the Know Nothing Party by stating the following: "I am not a know-nothing, that is certain. How could I be? How can anyone who abhors the oppression of Negroes be in favor of degrading classes of white people? Our progress in degeneracy appears to me to be pretty rapid. As a nation, we begin by declaring that all men are created equal. We now practically read it, all men are created equal except Negroes. When the know-nothings get control, it will read, all men are created equal except Negroes and foreigners and Catholics. When it comes to this, I should prefer immigrating to some country where they make no pretense of loving liberty. To Russia, for instance, where despotism can be taken pure and without the base alloy of hypocrisy." What is very important to note here is that Lincoln shared his frustration with the know-nothings. And he also details that he stands against the oppression of Negroes, admitting that it does in fact exist, and he much rather migrate to another country where class discrimination is absent. Did you notice how Abraham Lincoln used the term Negro instead of Indian or Native in this letter? And also, why did he use the word class instead of race?
Right.
Before groups of people were socially constructed as races of people, humans were categorically divided and arranged in classes by similarity, just like animals and plants are, for example. According to the 1828 Webster's English Language Dictionary, the noun class is defined as an order or rank of persons, a number of persons in society supposed to have some resemblance or equality in rank, education, property, talents, and the like, as in the phrase, all classes of men in society. A class is a scientific division or arrangement of a set of beings or things having something in common or ranged under a common denomination. The term race used to distinguish humans is newly formed, but not its overall discriminating concept, because the practice to rank humans by class was applied prior to any use of the term racism in American history.
And that's why it's important for us not to, you just don't want to be called Black. It's really a class. It's a code. It's not representative of our skin color, because clearly we are not Black. I get that it is a slang word, if you will. And I've heard, some people in the spiritual community say things like, well, Black is it is the absence of color. It is the chaos. It's the ether. We should be proud to call ourselves Black. I mean, but how does that tie you back to your land? Someone said to me in the comments on another video that I did that, these things are irrelevant because we're light beings and we have to prepare the body and the mind to transcend. I mean, I feel it. I mean, I really do. But we're on earth for a reason. And if we cannot connect heaven to earth, then, really, what is the point? If we are a people running from extinction, I think that it is imperative that we identify what soil section of the earth we represent, because that is, it has so much to do with the way we eat, the way we, we cultivate something that may be good on one landmass and really thrives for the people may not work for another people, so we have to really, unfortunately enough, just as a sidebar, I know that our soils are devitalized because of all of the craziness that we've done. But if we can change our mind, because really it starts in the mind. People say, well, what can I do? What is there to do? You have to change your mind before you can do anything else. But if your mind is stuck on, I'm from someplace else, I'm just stuck here, then you have to really find your way to make it back to wherever it is that you feel that you're from. But to reside in these lands, condemning the people that say, well, I'm this, and you are too. Just because we are brown in complexion does not mean that we. And I'll probably do another video because I heard something totally different spectrum of things, and I was like, wow, that is so profound. I ain't gonna spill it here in this moment, but we have got to really wake up and do this research on ourselves so that we can, it's a difference when you know that you're born from greatness than if you feel like you're born from enslaved people or slaves, right? Because most people don't say enslaved people, they say slaves. I taught for a hot second in Richmond Public Schools, and it was amazing how many children actually believed that their heritage started with slavery.
So a population ranking system did in fact exist and is still active today, strictly as a means of transportation, which is another form of manipulation and control. And here's what I mean by that. Now, some of you have subscribed to the definition of the word transportation, referring to objects or things utilized for the purpose of moving objects, things, or people from one place to another. But according to the etymology of the noun transport, it is also, quote, a state of being carried away by overwhelming emotion. Listen closely. When transport is used as a verb in this sense, it means to hold someone spellbound. So in other words, transportation is another way of saying rapture or trance or ecstasy, which is a mystic state of being beyond self-control. And in most cases, being beyond self-control also refers to you not being in the driver's seat of boats, ships, buses, taxis, planes, and underground railway systems for that matter. It could also be referring to a story in a book that places the reader into a trance that allows them to travel and experience new beginnings and new worlds by the use of their imagination. This state of being beyond self-control can also be referring to an individual that has been arrested and is serving time in jail, because that is literally a person that's in a state of being beyond their control. According to the National Archives of the UK, transportation has been used as a form of punishment since 1717 under the Bloody Code. Courts were looking for punishment which was not as extreme as hanging, but tougher than a fine. In the absence of proper prisons, transportation was the answer and was used for over 100 years. In the 18th century, convicts were transported to America. After U.S. independence in 1776, however, this option was closed and the British government looked for another destination. Yeah, okay. Australia had been mapped and claimed as British territory in 1770, so convicts began to be sent there. From 1787 to 1857, 162,000 British convicts were transported to Australia. 7 out of 8 of these were male. Some were as young as 9 or 10. some were over 80. Many political prisoners were transported, including Luddites, Chartists, the Toll Puddle Martyrs, and Irish nationalists, end quote.
All coming here.
So the incoming foreigners to America between the 1700s and the 1900s were considered criminals, or rather peasants, by the countries of origin they were expelled from. And the punishment was to be transported to foreign parts of the world that foreign governments somehow managed to claim ownership of by remote control. This also exposes why the U.S. Census utilized the classification free whites on the 1790 census and up until the 1840 census. And the description of these people is also a perfect match with who Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. made reference to during this meeting.
Ooh, I love these. The ones right you lit, the Freudian. I'm gonna sit this one out. It tastes so good.
And I have another account. I don't even know why I didn't open that one. Forgive me, y'all. Forgive me.
The world is ready.
And see, now I want to play extra now.
At the very same time that America refused to give the Negro any land, through an act of Congress, our government was giving away millions of acres of land in the West and the Midwest, which meant that.
Hold on for a second. So they were giving away millions and millions of, like, it's mind blowing. You know, they talk about, you know, giving away the land and the gold rush, a free for all. Like, no, it was not. These things were already here for the people. Then you have foreigners, criminals, all types of people coming over here like it's a free for all. And then we have a foreign government who's like, you know, go ahead, do you. Take what you need. Or they are giving them liberties or benefits that the people of the land don't even have.
That it was willing to undergird its white peasants from Europe with an economic floor, which meant that it was willing to undergird its white peasants from Europe with an economic floor. But not only did they give the land, they built land grant colleges with government money to teach them how to farm. Not only that, they provided county agents to further their expertise in farming. Not only that, they provided low interest rates in order that they could mechanize their farm. Not only that, today many of these people are receiving millions of dollars in federal subsidies not to farm, and they are the very people telling the black man that he ought to lift himself by his own bootstraps.
Y'all, they're getting millions in subsidies, but when it comes to the needy or other people, it's welfare. And then we're being told that we have to pull ourselves up by our own bootstraps. And I even hear other people that have the hue that we have telling us that we need to pull ourselves up by our own bootstraps. Like, what? This is mind-blowing. So this video does have a little over 30 minutes left. I'm not going to play the whole thing. You can totally look it up if you want to see the remaining portion of it. But I just wanted to, you know, give my input again on what I have been learning, not only for, let's see if I can get back where y'all at, not only for myself, but for, you know, other people, because it is important. It's important that we stop just taking what is being force fed to us as law, because there's only one law, really, and that's the great law. And it has totally been violated. And we have to restore, you know, the order. So I'll come back. I have no real schedule of this. I'm actually supposed to be studying. As I mentioned earlier on, I'm in culinary school, refining my skills, and I hope to be done by the end of May. But right now, this time is really designated for study time. But I've been waiting for a few months. I was like, I'm not going to do it until springtime. So I am so grateful for those of you who have come on live. I hope that there was some, I see comments, but I'll probably have to read the comments afterwards. And well, maybe, let me see if I can. Oh, okay, Richmond, I saw that first and foremost. If you believe slavery, explain the 68 years after that. Derek Cobb, I'm not sure I understand what you're saying. If you believe slavery, explain the 60 years after that. The 68 years after what? What are you speaking to? What time period are you speaking to? Because oftentimes what we hear is, let me go back. After, let's see. Oh, I think I know who this is. You are really a fan. Thank you for stopping in again. He's talking about the 68 years, who the American is. Research the 68 years before and after the 1933 Gold Confiscation Act. So yeah, they confiscated the gold, told them they couldn't use it, all while hoarding it for themselves. So if you, just let me, they didn't take our land, they took our economy. Well, the economy is attached to the land. And we don't have any. So if you have land and the land is in a trust, your home is in the trust, all those things are great. But I'll be sure to come back and go through all of the comments. So definitely, y'all, again, I'm grateful for the add-ons and people coming in and sharing the comments, but I'm definitely a real person out here in the world. I don't do trolls. As I said in the comments, in the description, don't come for me if I didn't send for you. Not speaking to anyone in particular. I'm just saying that, sometimes we get these fingers get the moving and some people become real disrespectful. And I am not a fan. And I'm not the one either. So, we can communicate, but we're going to do it with ease and flow. But I definitely know who this person is because he's been all over another video that I posted. So the next time, hopefully I'll be in the kitchen, showing some of the things that I've learned. I may be in the chair, I don't know. But the point that I was making before I got off on a tangent is I have no real schedule on doing this. This is not to be something for monetization. This is just me sharing and hopefully, employing some sort of thought that you may not have had or you have had and like, oh my God, somebody else thinks like me. So until the next time, I say peace, love, and wholeness, and thank you so much. Oh, tonight at 7 o'clock, the Tech Collective, Immigrant Collective, we are a group of holistic practitioners doing the work of healing, detoxing, and just being a source of support. We've all gone through it. We are trained by Queen Afua. Not sure if you know who that is, but we love the work. And we're back after many months of hiatus. So we'll... I think I'm streaming to this platform as well. So come back and, see us, show the support, and hopefully we can help you help yourself, in the area of wellness and health. So until the next time, once again, peace, love, and wholeness. Oh, peace, love, and wholeness. We ain't doing this. I don't even know why I did that. Peace, love, and wholeness. Peace, y'all.